Kan. You know, she joined the board recently. Yes, that's right.
Oh, terrific.
That's right.
Glad to hear that. Got a nice turnout tonight, I think, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's a very good turnout. One of our bigger turnouts. I think so, yeah.
I am your guest host, Heidi, and today we are so happy to have our host for today's Yue-Sai's interview. And can I have your name?
Giusetta Capriati from Italy,
Wow, from Italy.
but I live in New York.
Yeah.
I've been living in New York for the last 50 years.
15 years.
50, 50. Yes.
I
I arrived for the bicentennial and I'm going to live with the 250th anniversary of the United States of America this year.
Wow, I can tell your energy and your love with this wonderful like New York City. I can tell you and another wonderful like Miss Yuxi and like two very standout, wonderful women like on the stage. That's really like inspire me a lot. Can you give me 3 words to like describe her? Maybe
3 words about what?
3 words about to describe her. You think
About what?
about Miss Yuxi?
Yue-Sai.
Yeah.
Yue-Sai. Yue-Sai
What do you
is
think about her?
unbelievable. Yue-Sai is a TV producer. She's unstoppable.
Yeah.
She's the best ambassador that China has to the world. She has devoted her life to promote the Chinese civilization around the world.
Mm-hmm.
She strongly believes in it, and she's going to fulfill her dream up to the end. She's amazing.
Yeah.
You can ask her
Okay.
friend,
Okay.
Ijaz Malik.
Okay. Thank you. How you think about this activity?
Well, this is extraordinary, and I'm very proud of her. We know each other for almost 40 years, and she's one of the most incredible human beings we have.
How
And
long
she-
have you been know each other?
About 40 years.
40 years. Wow.
She's like my sister, and very fond of her. In
Wow.
fact, I was participating in Shanghai. I went to see her.
Oh, I came from Shanghai.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
there was she was awarded some business lady of China
Yeah.
about 20 years ago. So I went there and I attended that.
She's the most. Yeah, she's the most important and most like maybe famous
But she
woman in
represents your
China.
country so nicely, you know.
Yeah.
And in her townhouse, when she's in New York, every Sunday she has a brunch and you meet all kinds of people. She's very generous what she does.
Yeah. Can you give me like if you have like you can name her in 3 words? What are you gonna choose?
Well,
Like introduce to the audience.
well, she's extraordinarily talented and giving, and she
Wow.
promotes your country very, very well.
Unconditionally. Wow.
Unconditionally.
I can tell.
And
Thank you so much. Thank you
please.
so much for having me
谢谢.
here. Yes, it's an honor to have you here today, and it's a wonderful interview we just heard. And as the most famous Chinese woman in the whole world, what would you say for the young generation, like Z generation today?
Being very famous is not difficult.
Oh.
If you want to be the most famous woman in China, very easy. You just take off your clothes and run around Tiananmen Square. You can be the most famous woman in China, right? But it's not the story. The story is how she did it, how I did it is the
Yeah.
story, right? So this is really my journey, what I have done in my life, and helping to bridge East and West together, and that's the story.
Yeah, I also know that this year is the 100 year for the China Institute.
Yes.
What do you think the China Institute could do for China or Chinese culture in this century?
Because
You did wonderful in the last one.
China Institute actually is a cultural organization. It really is not a political organization. So it only deals with culture. So in our own little way, we try to combine educate people who love Chinese culture and people who are Westerners who are interested in Chinese culture, and even Chinese who love Chinese culture. So that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, it's for 100 years. They have been
Yeah.
doing it.
I think it'll be another 100 years.
Yes, we hope so. We hope we will make another 100 years.
Yeah.
So come to support us,
Yeah.
and we have a charity event on May 28th.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. I can truly, I am a Dunhuang dancer. I have performed in China for China Institute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Spring Festival. And also, I think you saw my performance. I am the Dunhuang dancer in the Chinese Columbia teacher college. That day, we're at the same table. Yeah. Yeah, I should have a like
Yeah, she's
picture.
She's a
Yeah, I'm the
dancer.
Dunhuang dancer. Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey everyone, this is Katie. I'm your guest host, and today we're so happy to have this wonderful gentleman here. I was so happy to see this wonderful activity. It's so inspiring. Can I ask you a question, like why you want to have such a famous woman, and like a symbol of the Chinese woman right now nowadays, the most famous Chinese woman in the whole world, and you invite her to your space? Why?
No, this is not my space.
Oh.
Yue-Sai是我的女朋友.
Oh, wow.
Yue-Sai is my girlfriend.
You are so lucky.
Yes, I know.
I have to say that.
Yes.
Okay. And okay, can you give me 3 words to describe her? Choose wisely. She will watching.
Smart,
Smart, of course.
elegant,
Elegant.
and sexy.
Sexy. Wow. Well, why you think she's smart? Smart, like what
Well,
kind of?
look what she does. I mean, she's got a
Yeah.
great heart.
She's my idol.
Yes,
Yeah, of
many
course.
people's
Yeah.
idol. That's
Yeah.
correct.
And why you think she could be like such at a high level standard?
She
of
worked
her
hard.
level?
She worked very, very hard as you heard before.
Yeah,
She
I can
worked
tell.
hard.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so
on a scale few individuals have achieved. She has been a driving force in building meaningful dialogue between China and the United States, creating platforms where scholars, cultural leaders, and civic society organizations can address shared challenges from public health and women's empowerment to environmental stewardship and civic engagement. Her work has helped people from different backgrounds see each other not as adversaries, but as partners. Her philanthropic work has supported children's health, women's education, and poverty alleviation, and serves as an expression of her core belief that global challenges require collaborative, cross-border solutions. She is, in every sense, a bridge builder and one of the most consequential practitioners of people-centered diplomacy. We will now turn to Dame Giuseppe Capriati, for whom this series is named, to engage Yue-Sai in a fireside chat. We're just missing the fireplace. Giuseppe?
Is the most famous woman in China. I think they should have named it the most famous Chinese woman in the world. That's what you should have said. Anyway, but what is interesting is not just the title, but it's the subtitle, how she did it. And tonight we are going to tell you about it. Now, Yue-Sai, you were born in Guilin, one of the most beautiful places in China. You first, and then she came. You started a trading company in your apartment, but you were not happy. You realized that Americans knew very little about, not only about China, but about Asia. So you joined the Friend of Viewers, so just started a television program, Looking East. It was the first television program devoted to Asia. Now, you don't know Yue-Sai, at the same time, someone else in America had your same ideas, John Rockefeller III. He also realized that America knew very little about Asia, and he started a great foundation, Asia Society, that now sits in a beautiful building on Park Avenue and 70th Street, with a China-US Relations Center, with a think tank, the Asia Society Policy Institute, that ranks third in the world. Great minds think together. When you were looking east, one of your viewers was the head of PBS, and it was September 1984. PBS, she wanted to broadcast on all the PBS stations in the United States. Deng Xiaoping, who was then the leader of the Communist Party, the one who opened China up to foreign investment, to new economy, to reforms. So she wanted to broadcast his speech on the National Day, October 1st, with a big military parade in Tiananmen Square. But they needed an English narrator. So she offered you to be the narrator behind the screen.
Okay, let me
Can you
clarify
see?
this. This is more important, more interesting than you said. It's not so bad. Yeah.
Thank you.
You remember, I just said to you that no matter what you do in life, it's very important because if things follow, things follow. So I started a television show called Looking East, as you said, and it was a show about Asia. Nobody knew and cared about Asia at all at that time. Think about this, it was the late 70s, right, or the 80s. You know, and I said to everybody, I said, I want to do a show about Asia. I said, oh, Mike Wallace said, I don't think anybody cares about Asia. First of all, everybody thought it was just a black hole over there, right? China, Asia, who cared, right? He said that nobody will watch your show. He said that. He said that to me. But he was kind enough to introduce me to his agent. And, well, Mike Wallace's agent. Do you guys know who Mike Wallace is? Not the little one. The guy doesn't know who. Mike Wallace said, I want you to be my agent. I think you're very talented. So I met his agent. His agent said, Yue-Sai, you didn't go to school in America. You didn't go to a little station. You work your way up to New York. You know, I'm not able to sell you. So I said, if you're not able to sell me, then I'm going to have to sell myself. I'm going to start my own television show. Looking East was born because I was a volunteer for the first cable show in Chinatown. And my friend said that, you know, I'd like you to give me 1 day of a week, and I want you to help me to put together this Chinese station. So, and I want you to know you're not being paid. So that is the rest of my life. I'm not being paid for a lot of the things I do. So I started doing television, and I remember that when I did something very, for example, I did a program about Qigong. Now, some of you may have heard of Qigong, but at that time I did a program about Qigong, and because Qigong is the curing of diseases with your power, with your hand. It was a very interesting program. At least that's what I thought because I did it. That little TV station had non-stop phone calls, non-stop. And I said, whoa, and you say nobody cares about Asian culture? That is not possible. I remember I did a program about what the Chinese ate during Chinese New Year. I got endless phone calls asking me, where can I get the Chinese banquet, the Chinese New Year? So I knew people, if you present it correctly, people will love it. People will want to know more about it. And you just need to do a very good job. If this is what you're passionate about, just do a very good job. And so I think I did a good enough job. Yesterday, my secretary and I were going through a whole file, a whole portfolio of fan mail from Looking East. And those days are early 80s, you guys. You know, they didn't know how long ago that was. And you cannot imagine, they brought me to tears, and I can remember those letters, of course. And it was just, so people are interested if you give them, if you do it correctly. So Looking East was formed. Now, I thought that nobody was watching the program. I syndicated it myself. However, I realized that a lot of people were watching it, especially the head of PBS. The head of PBS here said to me 2 days before October 1st, he said, I have 48 hours. I need you to help me to narrate. I watched Looking East. I assume you know something about China. The last 40 years, the Chinese government never stopped changing the policy in order to fit what was happening to the reality of it, right? The second thing is the Americans. The Americans really helped China to open. They allowed China to go into WTO. Without WTO, China would not have been today the second largest economy in the world. And the Americans, actually America does a lot of amazing things in America, in China. For example, you know, I think a lot of you might know I'm the co-chair of China Institute in America. Yeah. And you think that China Institute of America would have been started 100 years ago by the Chinese, right? Not true. That it was started by two very outstanding American scholars. One is called John Monroe, one is called Paul Dewey. I'm sure a lot of you would know. The Columbia Teachers School they were a very big part of that. Okay, to make a long story short, they went to China, they came back and said, how is it possible that, you know, in America, in China, I could hear people speak English. In America, I don't hear anybody speaking Chinese. I want to start an organization called China Institute to teach people about Chinese culture, whether it's language, whether it's dance, music, whatever. So it was started by two Americans, and they said to themselves, oh, we can't just have Americans, right? I better bring two Chinese. So they brought in two very well-known Chinese. One is called Guo Bingyuan, and the other one is called Hu Shi. I'm sure that every Chinese in this room, if you are Chinese, real Chinese, I mean not fake Chinese, you will know who Hu Shi is. One of the most important scholars in the history of China, right? And she was one of the founders. But the most significant part of it, do you guys know the history of China, that there is what they call the Boxer identity? Boxer identity. Do you remember about what the Chinese ate during Chinese New Year? I got endless phone calls asking me, where can I get the Chinese banquet, the Chinese New Year? So I knew people, if you present it correctly, people will love it. People will want to know more about it. And you just need to do a very good job. If this is what you're passionate about, just do a very good job. And so I think I did a good enough job. Yesterday, my secretary and I were going through a whole file, a whole portfolio of fan mail from Looking East. In those days are early 80s, you guys. You know, they didn't know how long ago that was. You cannot imagine, they brought me to tears. I can remember those letters, of course, and it was just, so people are interested if you give them, if you do it correctly. So Looking East was formed. Now, I thought that nobody was watching the program. I syndicated it myself. However, I realized that a lot of people were watching it, especially the head of PBS. The head of PBS here said to me 2 days before October 1st, he said, I have 48 hours. I need you to help me to narrate. I watched Looking East. I assume you know something about China. Nobody knew anything about China in 1984. So she said, I want you to narrate a show that's coming for our first joint venture between China and the United States. I need you to narrate that show behind us. Little one, how old are you? You're 9 years old? What do you want to ask?
So, I have a question.
Hey, you're a skater.
Yes. So, what would you like to tell American kids that they don't know about China?
Wow, really? Wow, I think they know nothing. They really don't know anything. I mean, honestly, that's why we need to work very hard, because it is really hard to understand another culture. And one of the most important things to me, if you Because if you know the language, you will be in a much, much better position to know the people. That's why I tell my friends in America, Chinese friends, I said, you are moving to America, you are in America and you speak absolutely lousy Chinese, but English. Why are you here? And people say to me, I always say, Yue-Sai, you know, you are not in Chinatown. You're really, your friends are all up here. How do we get into that society? I just speak English. You know, how else? So first learn the language. How is your Chinese sky? 不错. Sort of good. Sort of good is not good enough. It is just not good enough. When I first came to New York, I realized that I realized that for the rest of my life, I had to speak English, so I better speak really good English, right? So I said I'm going to study English real hard. So I did not know that at one time in the future I would be starting a television program, but I did. I told you, whatever you do will have a result, right? So I looked around this city. I said, whoa, this city is run by the Jews. I knew nothing about the Jews, absolutely zero. I had never had a Jewish friend in my life. So what did I do? I went to the bookstore. I bought the first 2 books. The first one was The History of the Jews. So I know a little bit about Ashkenazi Jews and right? The second book I bought was The Joy of Yiddish. So when people were speaking Yiddish to me, at least I could understand a little bit. So the question is a very good question. I would say that if your kids, you guys want to know about another country, try the language. Of course, you have to learn about the language, the history, and everything else, right? And there is one thing that is extremely important, which is that you have to go. Alan, he doesn't see a pothole. You said that. You said that you've been in China for 3 weeks. You never saw one single pothole.
Not 3 weeks, 3 times, but 3 months. But over 3 times I went to China last year. Over 3 months, and no potholes. I get on the train in Chongqing, for example. It's 5 yen, which is 40 cents to get on the train. The subway is clean. There's no homeless people. There's a glass door at the platform so no one can push you in front of the train and kill you, and you can't kill yourself. And when the train pulls up and you get on the train, it's a brand new train car. And I can tell you, if I was eating a bagel and I dropped it before, I could pick up and eat it. That's how clean the train is. Not to mention that when you get on
bagel,
the train,
did you say bagel? It's not like you find it there.
no, not exactly. I'm just making a point. Okay, egg rolls. Okay.